Okay. Hi guys, welcome back. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Anybody with me this morning?
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, we're still here.
So, who's next in line?
Probably me, Ivan.
Hi Ivan, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I was welcoming some more resumes. And again, like Evgeny mentioned, don't wait till I call you. You want to just start sending it. We'll go ahead and take a look. So Ivan, let's go and look at your stuff right now. Give me 1 second. Ivan, how do you pronounce your last name?
Oh, it's pretty hard. I mean, it's Polyvay, but
It's
whatever it is.
there.
Polyvay.
Okay. So it's a pleasure to meet you today.
Nice to meet you
Thank you
too.
for coming out this morning. Can you
Thanks.
tell me a little bit about yourself? I have your resume here, but I'd like to hear from you what it is that
Yeah, I understand.
tell me about
So,
yourself.
like, you know my name. So my name is Ivan already, as you can see in my resume. I'm an engineer with over 3 years experience in IT. During my engineering career, I have been working on multiple projects. I created a lot of test cases, different test cases like ad hoc, smoke test, regression test, compatibility test. I mean, all of this stuff. I work with the different platforms such as Macintosh, Windows, Linux. I'm familiar a little bit with the iOS and Android devices. Also familiar with almost all famous browsers and its developer tools. Using developer tools, I identify locators for the buttons in order to create automation tests using Cucumber, Jerk, and BDD. I created and used SQL queries to perform backend testing in order to verify data integrity. Also, I use Postman a lot. Use Postman to execute API tests and create small automated API test suites. All my moves and whatever I did was recorded in Jira tracking tools. Most of my work, I used to work with in agile environment with deep understanding that communication is a key to success because it's agile. So what else? I can say that I have very good communication skills that helps me successfully communicate with technical and non-technical teams, such as project managers and developer teams. And basically that's it. I like QA, and I believe that my role as a QA is not to just find the bug and report the bug, but also to deliver the quality product to the end user.
Ivan, that sounds great. Can you tell me a little bit about your day-to-day at your current project, current company?
Usually my day starts with a meeting, with a Scrum meeting or stand-up meeting. It really depends day by day. On the meeting, we discussed what we did yesterday, what we're gonna do today and tomorrow. Also, we discussed like if any, like my teammates has any blockers or they don't have any blockers. Then I start pulling the tickets from the Jira and start working on it. Basically, this is the day routine.
How often does the current project that you're working on, how do you guys sit idle? Does the QA team sit idle? Meaning, do you wait until a build is delivered to you? Are you doing anything else while you're waiting for a build with the fixes?
Could you please rephrase your question? I don't really understand.
Do you guys ever stay idle? Idle meaning, are you waiting for a build, especially with the start of a new sprint?
Not really, because we have user stories, and after the user stories, after the meetings, we can start immediately work on some of the features that are going to be kind of in project. So we will discover the test cases even before the feature will be built. So
When you
and
guys have, when in your current job, when you guys have questions regarding certain acceptance criteria in the user stories and it's unclear, even though acceptance criteria says a particular thing, who do you consult with?
uh, I would actually first I would refer any my question to my team lead. If he doesn't have answers, probably he would ask to the project manager to verify what exactly the customer wants to have.
That's good. So, can you tell me what is the reason that you're looking around for a new opportunity? What is the reason for you showing up here today?
Yeah, I understand. So, be honest, like I've been working 3 years already in that company, and I have kind of feeling that I'm stuck in my growing. I mean, I like challenges, and I want to challenge a little bit more myself, and I want to learn a little bit more because in my particular job, I'm just doing basically the same thing day by day. So, I'm looking for new advantages,
That
new
sounds good.
challenges.
Do you Can you elaborate on some of the tools that you've listed on your resume? You mentioned that you're familiar with Selenium WebDriver, Cucumber. What are some of the stuff you've implemented using that at your current job?
Um, with the cucumber, so why we use the cucumber because it's driven development tool. I mean, just kind of methodology. So this language, it's pretty much clear and understandable for also technical and non-technical team, and it's just easier for everybody to explain whatever we did and how the automation works. Um, and with the Selenium WebDriver, so basically what I did, I used the Visual Studio Code, and Selenium WebDriver just helps me to kind of open up the web browser and just do the click for me, whatever I did like on the script.
How how many people are on your QA team?
Currently in my QA team, it's like five people. Five
And
people,
who's
yeah.
responsible for what? How do you guys break them up? Do you guys get assigned a particular functionality and then you're in charge of about it, or all five of you are in charge for that sprint?
I mean, it really depends. It's different sprint by sprint, but usually we kind of work together and we pick up the ticket, whatever we can do. And like for example, if some of the person or my teammates familiar most with the writing SQL queries, he will pick up that story. If another guy, for example, wants to work with API, he will pick up that story. So basically, it just really depends on the project and really depends on how many tests we have to do in a week.
Okay. You know, we employ people overseas. We outsource some of our automation overseas. There's kind of a language barrier as far as determining and giving the people overseas an understanding of our business functionality. When we come in the morning, we have a test, an automated test that's run. It's kicked off by a Jenkins service, and we get the results of our automation test from overseas, and we can identify, you know, some of the assertions that may have failed. Do you participate in correcting? Have you had any experience in correcting these kind of failures in a test case?
Um, to be honest, no, because if the person write the script, he understands completely much better than some other teammates. So basically, if something's fail, like probably um, we will discuss that in the second day or second meeting. So why is that fail and how to fix it, and what was the kind of what caused this problem, because
Okay.
if it was not fail like day before or sprint before, so what's happened?
So, Ivan, that's a great answer. I just want to let you know that one of the my exposure to interviewing is a lot of the companies, they have outsourced team members, either in India, China, whatever it is. They expect a QA person, QA engineer, QA manual tester to do the manual testing in-house, and then certain automation testing is done overseas. And they want you to jump in, even if you don't even have experience in that particular area. They want to get the test steps done correctly. So that's something that you may want to look into. Just, it's not a question that's asked often, but a question does get asked is, are you able to assist our overseas QA department in
Hmm.
translating test cases that they may not be understanding because they're just given a Gherkin script, if then given, do this, and they don't understand how to make that particular test case pass. So they'll pull you in. They'll pull you in because you're probably the only QA person in that company to help them get that ticket test case to pass.
Hmm. Okay,
Okay.
understand.
You, I'm looking at so I believe Sergey also works here as well. So you guys are friends?
Yeah, we know each other.
Awesome. And you're currently down here in San Diego, right?
Yes, currently I'm here, but I'm willing to relocate. It's not a big deal for me.
What are some of your biggest challenges that you feel when you're sending out your resume? What kind of feedback do you think you're getting?
Um, I mean, is it the mock interview question or it's a just free
This is
question right
just
now?
me in general asking you, are you getting calls back? Are you not seeing
No,
much
not
going on?
not yet. I mean, I sent my resume probably to just like 10 companies by now, and
Okay.
still didn't hear nothing about like from them. Still looking, and but to be honest, like I'm trying to find a job through the LinkedIn because don't really like
Absolutely.
Glassdoor or Indeed. I mean, LinkedIn is like social media, right? So the Facebook is pretty much famous right now, and it grows really fast. So I believe so. The LinkedIn has the same way. It's gonna grow the same way, but in professional field. So that's why I kind of rely on LinkedIn right now.
Okay. How long have you been on your job search?
I would say like 1.5 week.
Okay, so you're pretty new. You have time to refine it. Um, a question that I want to ask you, part of a job interview. Um, what personalities do you work well with and not? Do you like,
Um,
I mean, I'm a hard manager. I want deadlines. I have people I have to report to. Is that a challenge for you?
no, it's not. I mean, like, if I understand, you're asking with what type of personality I'm working better or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah. So, uh, I believe so. Most important is like character, like it to be positive. Anyway, whatever's happened, it's to all the time be positive about everything. So positive people attract to me, and I'm trying to kind of be positive all the time. And open
Okay.
people who doesn't shy to say something, to ask something, or to kind of even if I do like any mistakes to correct me. So why not?
So I've been looking at your resume and I've noticed that you fully got into the job market around 2013. Can I is that a true statement?
It's not really true. I mean, I have more work experience, but I'm trying to keep my resume in one page, and my previous work experience pretty much the same as my KSK automation. I mean, I've been working as engineer since I graduated my technical college, technical university.
Okay. Do you have any side projects that you're working on, or are you just continuing your training in automation? Is there anything else that you do aside from work?
Yeah, kind of. I'm trying to be a lead of BQA4. I'm trying to guide the people around and try to answer their questions and their kind of um, the problems that what they have. So it helps me a lot to understand how the people kind of think about the product, how the people think about the education, and I mean, my goal is to guide them. That
Right.
that everybody personal um, inner feel or inner goal is to study more, not to stuck with one bug report or not to stuck with one test case and just working with that test case like 2 3 weeks. It doesn't help you to learn.
Right. So I'm going to add just one suggestion to your resume. What you
Hmm.
mentioned in your profile, you're to obtain a QA engineer position in the IT field. Are you limiting yourself only to a field that has IT? Are you not interested in a hospital, a retail, a manufacturing field, strictly IT?
um Probably yes. Probably I would like to stick with IT.
Okay. You're being specific. So, you know, if you send this out to, let's just say, Amgen, and they are a pharmaceutical manufacturing company, they do have QA engineers, but they're not quote unquote IT. They're gonna say, oh well, might not like, you know, research or lab information. You're kind of limiting yourself that you just want to be strictly in things that are you know, like Amazon geared towards IT, Microsoft, and things like that. If that's what you want,
Mhm.
that's fine.
Okay, I mean I can remove it. So how to obtain the K engineer position
Yeah, and continue growing in your professional
and
environment. You
continue
definitely
growing.
want to give yourself a bigger playing field versus just saying, I just want to be strict on IT. You know, they might not even have you in the IT department. They might have you in the marketing department, the digital
Hmm.
product department. And there's an IT, but then you're now telling them like, don't bother giving me something in digital marketing. I only want IT field.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I
So
will remove that.
remove that if you can, and you know, I'd like to keep posted and see where your search goes. But we're going to move on to the next if we can. Ivan, do you have any other questions before I move on?
No, no. Just tell me like in a grade 1 to 10, how was it? What's
I
my score?
definitely, your interview skills are great. I believe that you're answering the questions that's asked of you. You know, one of the things, if you get the opportunity to, is sell yourself. Tell them, you know, a lot of times we as hiring managers, we see all of these listed, and you know, to me it becomes a copy and paste. You see the same thing for the next person. When you get a chance to tell them about yourself, tell them, you know, specifically at your job there was this ordering functionality where you take people's credit cards and you store it, so when they order it, it'll be automatic. It'll recognize a person based on their login. You tell them specific little snippets and they'll remember. I remember that Ivan guy, the one that told us about the ordering capabilities in his last job. You want to be able to leave your interview with something different and unique that you've done so that it'll stay in their mind when they go ahead and review candidates and put them up together. Like, Ivan did this. I remember he was telling us and explaining to us about how passionate he was about one feature that he did. And I like that. I like that he's passionate about his job, that he was able to describe specific scenarios, because that'll stick out, you know, instead of just saying, you know, you have to understand, you have to separate yourself from what other people are saying. They're probably saying the same thing that you're doing, but take a step back and describe one scenario that you were a part of, and that'll
Hmm.
stay in their mind more than the next person.
Okay. Thank you
Does
so
that make
much.
sense?
Yeah, it does.
Sounds good. we're going to move on to the next one, if you don't mind, Ivan.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Let me
Let's move
pull it
on.
up. Maxim, are you there?
I'm here.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
I'm great. Well,
Cool.
it's a pleasure to meet you. I have your resume in front of me, and I appreciate you taking the time coming in today. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sure. I have 3 years hands-on experience in software testing with different applications like web and mobile. And as a person, I provide high quality for the product which I work on using QA methodology. During my experience, I analyzed and verify all documentations and requirements of products. And according to this, I write test plans, checklist, and test cases also. I do many black box and gray box testing, including majority important type of testing like smoke, regression, functionality, exploratory, acceptance testing. And I have experience with SQL database and API testing. And all of my professional experience, I work in agile environment. I have daily stand-up meeting. I participate in retrospective, planning and estimation of story. Um, and all of this I'm doing during software development lifecycle. I have good knowledge how it's work. Um, and I have passion for my work and I really like what I do. And I involve in this whole process and it's amazing.
So you're working at Wagon Wheel Enterprise Software. Can you tell me a little bit about what they do and what you do for them on a daily basis?
Oh, sure. My current company is a Wagon Wheel Enterprise Software, and it delivers single board computers and embedded software for laser devices for semiconductor manufacturing and scientific researches. And I work in team which work on e-commerce site, and my responsibility to make sure all new features implemented successfully with existing feature. I do many smoke and many regression testing before each release. This includes creating and updating test cases. Um, for this action, for these actions, I use plugin of Jira Zephyr, and for my project, I necessary to be sure all users have possibility to create account, choose the proper product, put it to cart, and complete purchase without any issues. It's must have. For the full vision of web application, I use MindMap using Google tool. It's type of test plan, and it helps us to optimize our testing process, and we can see all functionality of application, and we can add or edit something very simple. And as a person, my role also is report and tracking defects. I use for this Jira tool. And in my project, I check SQL database. I need to make sure all data provided correctly and fully. And also, I perform a request for API testing using Postman to verify backend of application. And also, I self-driving person, and I teach myself. I figure out how to automate my smoke suite for my project using Cucumber and Selenium WebDriver and Visual Studio Code.
Do you participate in knowledge sharing at your company?
Repeat, please.
Do you participate in knowledge sharing? Are you the individual that can get a new QA person up to speed?
Can you rephrase your question?
Can you train other people? Can you
Ah,
train another QA person in your company? Are you able to get them up to speed based on what you just mentioned?
yes, if they wants to be developed in some automation skills, I can provide some information how to automate something with Cucumber, because it's entry level for automation and very simple to understand how to automate something. And yes, I can teach some people in my team if they want.
Okay, so just we're going to step outside the interview, the mock interview. I have a quick suggestion to your resume. When you scroll down to the second page, you have text that don't match the rest of the text font in your resume. As a QA person applying for a QA, it doesn't really look that great if we're not consistent with our text. I just want to give you guys that, one of the things is spelling, grammatical errors, your font size, if they've all been, for instance, Times Roman numeral, Times New Roman, and then down below it's Arial, and then it's Times New Roman. It's a little bit of a eye-catching stuff. So definitely give your resume a good check. Make sure things are formatted uniformly. If they're size font 12 and you've used it in the same area, use the same size font, same font.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the things that I ask for is team effort. QA won't be anybody. I mean, the position of QA engineer, QA analyst, we're nothing if we don't know how to share our knowledge. One of the things that a lot of company relies on is knowledge sharing. And that's what they call it. Once you come in, they can ask you to go and create a Confluence page with documenting what it is that you learn, what you did. That's like a big thing. When I got in one of our first onboarding stuff, are you following me, Maxim?
What do you mean?
Knowledge sharing. Are you
Ah,
familiar?
no, knowledge sharing. Yes, of course. Because sometimes we have a lot of questions and we need to figure out how clear our documentations and how to use any kind of tools for testing, and we need to collaborate with each other, with QA team, with developers team. We need to ask many questions if we don't understand something, because it's very important um, mm, for good for our product, to make sure that our product works well for delivery to customers.
And I just want to add, one of the things that, if anybody's listening to me still, you want to go in an interview and you want to say, I utilize Jira and I also utilize Confluence. Any new test case, test design, or test approach on a particular functionality, I document those steps so that if I'm out sick, if I need to hand the job over to somebody, they can follow these steps accurately. I'm able to create that kind of knowledge sharing documentation. A lot of companies, they don't want to hire 5, 6, 7 people to do the same thing and then having that time be taken just to explain it. You want to set yourself apart and say, you know what, because Maxim, I'm looking at your resume and I think it's great, all the stuff that you've done. I don't really see much about documentation. That's something that you can have in there. But just saying, I have documentation on how one of my team members in QA can go ahead. How about if a QA person doesn't even know how to do Charles, proxy, or Fiddler? Like they don't even know how to get that to interface with Wagon Wheel enterprise software. So you want to be able to sell yourself and saying, in a Confluence page, I have documentation that can provide step-by-step instruction on how to execute Fiddler against the Wagon Wheel Enterprise Engineer software. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, of course.
So that's a good selling point that you guys can also do. Did you have any other questions for me? I want to make sure we keep to the schedule, and I think our interview will end at 12, so I want to make sure we have enough time for. Does anybody want to send us another resume for us to take a look at? I think, Maxim, you're the last one. If you don't have any questions, we can look at another one before we move on to our homework assignment.
Yes, of course. I don't have any questions. Move on.
Does anybody want to submit their resume for review? No takers? Does anybody have any further questions, one last questions before we move on to just other interview questions?
Yes, I have a question. Hi, Jen. This is Yuri. As we touched before about some details when we have to put in our resume, and you suggest not to put a city, but what about, for example, state? We will try to apply. Like, do we have to note that we live, for example, California or like Illinois, somewhere there? Like,
you know, lately people don't even put addresses. I think when you start with interviews, I remember when I was really young, I used to put my address and things like that. And slowly but surely, you know, speaking to our HR department, even to my past department and my current department, they don't want, it's actually against the law to go ahead and put that and have them base their decision in hiring on location. I wouldn't put that because that allows them to eliminate you even further. You know, you don't want certain filters to have them eliminate you. They might, you know, they might be in Minnesota and you mentioned California on there as your address. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
That gives them, well, is he in California or does he want us to pay for his relocation costs to come here? No, I don't think I'm gonna. I'm not.
Better not to like notice them that. Like,
yeah, you want them to just love you for your talent.
Okay.
Do that the best that you can when you're looking at that. You know, obviously they're going to look at your experience as far as your companies. Let them Google it on their side. They probably won't make that effort. They're just going to look at what's on paper. They like what they see, and they're going to call you for an interview.
I see. All right. Thank you. Thanks for the suggestion.
You're welcome. Anyone else has any other questions before we move on to our next homework assignment?
Actually, yeah. What if I'm looking for a job in certain location? Is it bad thing to mark it in my resume, or it's okay and common? I don't really.
Yeah, if you're in LA and you live in LA, put it. You know, that's not going to be a mark against you. What I'm saying is, you could be in Santa Clarita and you want a job down in Hollywood, which is an hour away, and you know traffic in LA is crazy. So people are not. They're gonna kind of. I've seen this, and you know, I speak with a notable HR individual, and she gives a lot of workshops. And one of the things is you don't want them to eliminate you because of distance. You want to do everything you can so that they're looking at your resume and not where you live. That's not part of your job search to tell them where you live, and you don't want them to make that kind of assumption. But if you live in LA, put that you live in LA. If you live in Hollywood and you're applying for a job in Hollywood, put Hollywood. That's a plus to them. But it's not a plus to you if you're trying to apply for a job in Hollywood and you live 2 hours away.
Okay, got it.
All right, Pavel. Is that Pavel that I just spoke to?
Yeah.
Okay. Any last questions? Before
I have a question. If interviewer asks me about certain website which I work on, I mean like abc.com, for example, and I just say I work on e-commerce site, it's enough for interviewer, or I need to specify certain website?
You know, Maxim, it's always so hard to give people as far as length on how you want to. When you go into an interview room and they're asking you, you know, give us an example of some defects, some bugs that you found on this particular website. You explain to them, and if you see that they're engaged with you, they're listening to you, they're not looking at their phones, they want you to go on and on, you know? But you want to keep it short and sweet where they understand that, look, I created a bug. I was able to determine that it had to do with a particular CSS issue, and I went ahead and noted that, made that call out, and provided that information to the developer. The developer resolved it, and I was able to view the particular font, color, whatever it is. So you want to give them, you know, the issue, the resolution to it, and what is a result of it.
I mean, I can explain any issue which I work on, but I mean, I don't want to specify certain website, abc.com. I just want to say e-commerce site. I don't want to.
Yeah, if they ask you to elaborate, well, what kind of e-commerce site are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Then they're probably going to ask you, you know, if that's what they're asking you, then you'll be specific. If they're asking you what website, you tell them. You know what? I'll tell you one of the things that I do. You know, I don't know if you guys are familiar. Maybe some of you are.
Repeat, please.
I'm sorry. Did somebody say something?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
One of the things, you know, that I do, and this is, we're going to segue into our homework assignment, is that I QA everything every day. You know, Instagram, I had an issue where I got hacked in my Instagram. And Instagram said, you know, you have to go through this contact us feed, blah, blah, blah. And they had a functionality that was broken. And I sent it to them. I sent it to Instagram, and I told them, you know, this isn't working. I can't request a forgot password because it keeps on going to the hacker's website. And I got a call from Instagram. You know, you have to be diligent. Like every day, if you're passionate about doing QA, you take your experience in everything that you do. And you'll start seeing it when you do this. Is like, oh, it looks like his resume isn't uniform. It's off here, it's off there. You take what you do at work as well, you know. At my job, you know, we're supposed to QA certain stuff, but the functionality broke. You know, when they checked in a new build, it broke this functionality, which is very crucial to our company. Like they need to log in. You need to explain those kind of things so that people are understanding that you're not just QA, it's just not on paper. You're not just saying that you're proficient in this software. You're actually doing QA on a daily basis. Does that sit well with everybody?
Thank you for that, for tips.
So we're gonna move over into this homework assignment, and it's always great exercise. And like I mentioned for Instagram, is going to any random website and mobile application and finding as many bugs as you can. If you're going to a web-based company that you're going to get interviewed for, I would think that you would go into their website and play with it. Do you guys get a chance to do that? If you're getting hired by different companies, do you guys go in there, or you just go in there just to get an idea as to what their company does? Anyone? If you get a job interview, do you go and visit their website and just find out what they do, or you actually play with their website and their functionality?
Of course, even before they send like kind of some job description or any response. I Google it, I verify whatever the company do to understand if I want to join that company or I don't want to join the company.
But do you also try to break their website or their mobile applications?
When I open the website and if I will see a lot of bugs or pretty poor website, I don't want to go with them. I mean, it's a quality, so if they don't,
Wait. Ivan.
So that turns you off?
yes, it does.
Seriously, no. It's a not. Don't do that. Don't judge the company just by their website. You never know, actually.
That's the best kind of jobs you want.
Yeah, if I would judge, for example, my Verify company, my last company where I used to work, I wouldn't get there because the marketing website is not that great, and actually the marketing website, it doesn't represent the internal product, not necessarily. So answering the question of Chang, and we already cover it. Whenever you go or you have a face-to-face interview or you have a phone screening even, play with their website, try to find an issue or try to find the bugs and report them. Just wrap it up in a nice way. I mean, if you don't have, I mean, if I would go to face-to-face, I would definitely bring bug reports. I would just show them. You know, you can write it in a Jira, for example, or you can print it out and just print out, and that would be sufficient enough just to show that you were curious and you did your homework, basically. You know.
Wonderful advice, Evgeny. I have not had anybody come in with that. That would be blown away if one of you did what Evgeny did. If you get an interview and you go and, you know, pull up their website and you're able to find something, you have to understand that a lot of these companies probably don't have an IT department. That's the reason why they're looking to hire people. They're probably needing your help. That's the best kind of companies, is the one that needs your help the most, and they're gonna be hiring. If they're getting it too perfect, they don't need you.
Right. And from our previous experience, people who did that, who show them bug reports and show them, oh, actually I found a couple issues, just want to reproduce and show you. You may be aware of it, but as Cheng said, you will be stand out, definitely. You'll be standing out from the crowd. It's like 30 or 40% of success, right? You just show them that you care about it. And then the rest, obviously, the interview process, how you would go through the interview process, how you would be prepared. If you check the job description, usually they put in job description the most important that the companies are looking for in the front, on the top of the job description, and you have to do your homework based on that. The rest is just nice to have, or like just, you know, their wishes. But what they really want is actually on the top of the job. Sometimes they just copy paste from other job descriptions.
Yes, you definitely want to stand out. And, you know, sometimes when you go to a company, they might not have a website. They might not have an application. That's the reason why they're probably needing you to jump in and having them hire. So you can take examples of other websites like, you know, delta.com, and you can go ahead and just list a few bugs. Or, you know, pull up a test case that you've created in Zephyr and tell them your if-then-given kind of approach. You know, QA manager, when they see that, you're not just coming in with a regular resume with the same type of software understanding. You're coming like, this guy knows his stuff. He's showing me that he's actually doing these kind of test cases, if-then-given test cases in Zephyr. He's printing stuff out. He knows. He's not just saying, I know Jira. I know Confluence. I work with it. I report it. You're coming in there with good documentation. It doesn't have to be their website. If they don't have a website, make yourself stand out and bug somebody else's website, an application.
Yeah, definitely. Good advice.
Do you guys have any other questions or any questions about this homework? I don't know if some of you have access to Jira, but part of, you know, this course, you do have access to Jira, and you can, I'm assuming, print out or take screenshots of some of the efforts that you're doing during this course as part of your portfolio, that this is, you know, you've taken this course and you might not even have experience, but at least you can take screenshots and you can print out and says, you know, I've taken this course, I have familiarity in creating test cases, accessing user stories, meeting acceptance criterias. You can do all this as part of your portfolio. Anybody have any questions about this homework?
Right.
Alex, or no?
This
It's
is your
okay.
last question. Yeah, go ahead, Natalia. Go ahead.
It's actually okay to share the information from previous company with the other company. For example, test cases. I mean,
Yeah.
is it confidential or?
Confidential.
I mean,
Yeah, don't do that. You can. Okay. Usually, when you get hired, you sign the contract where it clearly states that all property of the company is their property. You're not supposed to share with anybody else. That's why if you want to share, you can copy, modify heavily. Like, you know, there should be nothing which is pointing on some company. It's a legal issue.
And that's why we say go to their website, the website you're planning on interviewing for with the company. So you don't want them to say, oh my God, Natalia's, if she goes to the next company, she's going to probably take our information and tell the next company. You don't want them to do that. You want them to focus on just the company that you're going in to interview for. And
okay, I got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's why I actually was thinking that you are talking about our test cases from the project that we did to share.
No.
Now I got it. To prepare the new test cases from the company's website that we are trying to apply. Okay, now
Yes.
Even though we would be okay with that, we won't. We won't
I know
pursue
that.
Yeah, we would be okay, but it doesn't look right from that side. You would be looks like, oh yeah, just exactly what just Cheng said. If she just shown someone else test cases, probably you will do the same thing with their test cases, you know. So just write it. You can write it somewhere in Microsoft Doc, right? Or
absolutely.
In Google's in the Google Docs, right? It doesn't really matter the
application.
What is the format? Yeah, what is the format? But which matters that you did your homework. That's the main point. You did your homework. You write the test cases. You write the bugs that you found on the website.
Hello?
Sergey, could you please mute yourself? I'll do that. So and that's the most important, right? It doesn't really matter the format, but just bring something, but obviously a decent one. Don't bring one line of bug report. If you're writing the bug report, make it really nice looking, right? By nice looking, I mean you have to have a description of the bug report, very clear, that my grandma will read it and understand what's happening there. And right then you have to write details, right? The steps to reproduce. And steps to reproduce should be also clear. It's like the document that other people will be reading, not you. So that's what I'm trying to say. In what format is it going to be in in Jira, in Microsoft Doc, in any other bug tracking system, doesn't really matter. The matter is that you will bring something which is they can read and understand, oh yeah, this person did her homework really good. And if she did that before the interview, she probably will be doing really good job in our company. That's pretty much it.
And one thing I want to add is a lot of times you might not be interviewing with a QA person. You might just be interviewing with the HR person. And if you give them something like a bug list or whatever, and it's technical and they don't understand, they're going to probably look at you and say, I have no clue. I'm assuming this is what you guys do. So you want to make it like, look, there's an issue where we can't enter a password without a special character in your website. Easy enough. I noticed that that's on your website. If you know exactly who your audience is when you're interviewing, if it's an HR manager, if it's somebody from the marketing team, make sure you write bugs and test cases where they will understand. Don't assume that everybody's QA and people have a background in technology. So you definitely want to make it the most easiest and comprehensive documentation when you're handing all that information out to when you're going on interviews. You know, I see that there are a lot of people on this call, but I'm only hearing from the 3 or 4 special people. Is there any questions the rest of you have that making you shy and not wanting to reach out?
Guys, I can guarantee that those people who bring their resume and wasn't shy, they will get an offer. They will get an offer because be proactive. Don't wait. That's you have just last 2 lessons. Take it as much as possible. And
any questions is welcome. And I want to make sure because I've only heard from 4 or 5, and I think there's probably 30 plus on this channel. So I would love to just revisit if one last brave contestant wants to push up a resume into the general, we can give it an eyeball and then wrap up this class.
Maxim
already, we already went through the interview mock-up. Anyone else?
For now? Can you repeat? I don't understand.
Maxim, did you went through already, right, with Chan?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Come on, guys.
Any other questions that you want regarding job interview process?
Can I ask you a question? I think you already answered it, but I want you clarify. You said that it is good to add to resume for something, for example, that you are learning. For example, it is not, for example, that we covered in our courses, but I'm learning Python. So it will be good for resume that says that I'm learning and I can, at this moment, I can coding. So I can write a code and can to create functions and create code and to reuse this code. Will it add some value?
I want to say yes and no, and Evgeny can help me on this. I want you to, if you're learning something and you're not proficient in it, you may not want to put it on there. The reason being is if you're saying you're learning Python, you're putting all your effort in here, and the code base at the company you're interviewing for is all Java, they're not going to support you in helping learn Python. So that could be something that you discuss, like, you know, in addition to this, as far as an interview, you can throw it in when you're talking to them. Unless you're proficient and you know how to code in Python, then put it in there, because they're going to ask you, they want to know. But if you're just learning and you say you're a little bit, it doesn't really make sense for them because they're not probably even using Python in their company. So I'm a little bit yes and yes on that. If you really know that, if you look at their website and you can kind of look into Dev Console and take a peek at their code, if it's not encrypted, that this is what they're doing, then yeah, by all means put it on your resume. But if they're not even going through Python, it's just more of you telling them your personal development during a conversation with them.
Yeah, what I can add here, if you're in the learning process of something, for example, let's correlate to our bootcamp, right? We already passed with API, we already passed with SQL, we already passed with introduction automation. So just put only those things that you've been passing, and you be able to revisit this topic and keep it up very quickly. Don't put something that you are planning in ahead, learn, and it will take the process. For example, don't put Java, for example, right? We didn't cover Java. Even if you go to Java Bootcamp, for example, Java automation, right? Don't put it yet, because the interviewer, they will be asking questions, and you are actually, whatever you put in your resume, you give a permission to be asked about those technologies or about those skills that you put in your resume. The best way to describe it, you can mention it on the interview, right? Like, tell me about yourself, for example. However, before telling something, think twice, right? What does it mean? It means when, if you apply for a job and you understand just what Chang said, if they don't use Python, don't tell, I mean, you can tell, but it will not stand you out, right? If you will say, oh, and I'm in the process of learning Python. Why is that? Just because they don't really need it. And I cannot say that you have to be 100% sure that what they are looking for. And this is actually your job and your responsibility during the interview to figure it out what the employer is looking for, right? And obviously, there is a process of interview with HR, with the recruiters, and hiring manager is completely different, and the knowledge and expertise is also different with them. But you can briefly ask something about what they are looking for recruiter, for HR, and you can ask more specific questions to a hiring manager. What you guys are using right now? What if they, for example, what kind of testing you guys doing? Is it mainly front end or back end as well? If you do back end, what you're using for back end, like Postman? Is it, do you guys do APIs strictly, or you have an access to database so you can do SQL queries as well, right? So those type of questions you have to ask, and based on the answer, you can adjust your agenda, or you can adjust your story. If they would say, oh, and I have this experience multiple times. I was interviewing with the companies and they said, you know, well, we're using robot framework. And for me, it's like, oh, because I have an experience in robot framework, even not that deeply, but I did have experience. So I can emphasize and make, emphasize that I was working in robot framework and I really like it, right? Even though before saying that what you like, you have to find out, do they like it or they want to replace it as well, right? So it's a game. It is a game. So when you're asking, when you're trying to put something in your resume, do your homework, obviously, right? So that's about it. If you're learning something, don't throw it in the resume unless you know that specific skill, or you have this specific skill, or you can talk about it, right? You can prove that you whatever you put in your resume. For example, if you're not really sure about, again, SQL APIs, it's more technical, right? So you have a little bit more knowledge. So if you put something like that in your resume, just go, for example, Code Academy. it's a good source to practicing it again with SQL queries, right? Or APIs. APIs pretty much in Postman website, they have pretty good documentation. Or just Google it. It's pretty much easy. If you have kind of these specific questions, send to Ask Me Here channel, and we will be supporting you after the graduation. So you won't be alone. We can help you out how you can. But the most important for going through the interview, just be confident. I really like how Ivan was sounding very confident, very nicely. Don't be shy. It's not what they are looking for, because QA person supposed to be going forward and ask maybe not really comfortable questions, right? About the product, about why I see this very weird behavior. And it was, for example, forever, and nobody sees that, right? You should have that's what they are looking for. You have to ask questions. And you have to prove it in the interview. So if that side will like you as a person, it's like 50% of the success, right? The rest is just technical stuff. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I have one question really quick. So what would be a tip? What should we do if the interviewer will ask us something that we are not familiar with, or probably we forgot, or something like that? Like how to behave?
Easily. Let's say, well, you have to understand, first of all, what they're asking, right? For example, if Chan, for example, would be my hiring manager, and I would go to interview with her, and she would ask, oh, do you have an experience with, for example, HP Alarm, right? Or whatever tools that I never used that before. First of all, I have to ask, like, what kind of tool is that? Obviously, and if said, oh, we are using this for a bug tracking system. You can say, well, with this specific tool, I really didn't work, but I was working with a similar tool, which is Jira, for example, right? You can say that if only you can elaborate this thing. Other thing, if you, let's go with the more tough questions, right? Like how you are good with, for example, with programming languages, and you are really not, right? What I would do in this question, I would say actually, and I would say, well, for automation, for example, I was writing test cases in Cucumber, and that was pretty much it. But I understand that my ultimate goal is to move to automation, and for that, I understand that I need to know, learn programming languages. And I am in the process of learning, for example, Java or Python or whatever they are looking for, or wherever you are actually doing. This way, you can say that, and you just say that you just don't know, but it says that you are in the way of figuring out, right? In the way of getting the skill. Something like that, but be honest, but never say, no, I don't know, I will figure it out.
Is it okay to ask interviewer rephrase the question, because English is not my native language? So is it okay, or it's better to not?
You can rephrase. You can say like, for example, did you mean that? If you didn't understand the question, first of all, you can ask, could you please be more specific, or could you please repeat the question, or could you please, just try to understand the question, or can you say in other words? Chan, what do you say?
I would say, can you give me an example specifically what you are talking about? Make it, sometimes there is the language barrier. I completely understand that. when you ask them to repeat themselves, don't, because that means you didn't listen to them. There's a difference in giving examples and repeating yourself. Repeating is you didn't listen to them the first time. So what you say is, can you give me an example along the terms of what you're asking me? You know, if they said, are you familiar with fog bugs? Your response would be, can you give me an idea of what fog bugs does? I may or may not use a tool that's comparable to what you're mentioning. And then you're like, oh, we use a tool, Jira. It does about bug tracking defect software. So I have something that I am using that's comparable to what you're asking me. But they know that that you don't have experience with a tool tracking. You know, all of these names, all of these brand names, there might be the latest and greatest that's coming out while we're sleeping and we don't even know about it. But if you ask them to give you an example of what they're asking you, they're more than willing to tell you, because they want you to understand their question. Every person who's asking you for an interview, it's taking time out of them completing their job on a day-to-day. They're asking you, they want you to succeed. And there might be a different mindset. But if I'm going to hire you, if I'm going to take the time to hire you, I'm more than happy to give you an example. We're not going to take our time to waste an hour or two of your day to commute over here, to get dressed up, and not get you the right questions for you to understand. So never, ever be afraid to ask them, well, can you give me any examples of what you mean by that statement? What kind of tool is it that you have? I might have something that I've used comparable to it from my last job. Their databases might be something different than SQL, who knows? But as long as you say, hey, I can relate. I have actually worked with SQL databases that's similar to maybe their in-house database, and they're thinking that that why don't you know their stuff? Well, when you say, well, what does it actually do? What does this tool do? They'll be more than happy to explain it. So I don't want any of these questions to make you guys lose confidence about yourself, because that's not what they're trying to do. They want to just make sure, how do you do it as a QA person? How do you adapt? How are you flexible? I mean, that's what our job is. We're adapting to all of these different bugs, all of these things that are breaking. We have to work with developers. We have to work with product managers. We have to understand all of this. And that's a reason why they're asking you all this question. So never lose confidence, Aiden. You're more than welcome to ask them to elaborate, ask them to give you additional examples of what it is that they're trying to ask you.
Love it. I love it, really.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else, any other questions? We're here to support you. I'm always looking to make sure, the job market, like Evgeny said, it's a game. It's how you play it. It's how you understand it. It's how you talk. It's how you network, And before we wrap this up, instead of, I just want to give you guys a little brief background of how Evgeny and I met. I went into his networking course 2018 January, and I remember this because I had just come back from a long personal leave, and I said I wanted to get into the field that I'm passionate about, which is QA plus. And I started talking to people. I started seeing what's out there. Just, all the people down here in this, there's about 29 of you, 31 of you guys just left. But taking the effort to just say random questions or things that you're unclear about, this is the platform. Evgeny created all this automation stuff. It's a platform where I ask questions. I meet people. I meet people in the hiring department, people who aren't aware what QA does. But taking this course, having this support, this is the time that any dumb questions that you think are dumb are not dumb in this forum. And then you can go out into your interview process a lot more secure, a lot more confident. And even if you're a new QA person, if you take some of the courses that you've learned, some of the, issues that you may have encountered and the challenges, and be able to communicate that to the hiring manager, you're solid, you're good. So I sincerely want everybody to participate in all our Q&As.
Yep. All right. If there's no any other questions, oh, we do have 1, 2, 3. All right, guys. See you all on next week. We have just 2 additional classes, 2 last classes, and that's gonna be it. And we will support this channel for another 3 months, but then you have to move to the main Slack channel. I already sent the link, so if you're not there yet, it's time to get in there. No, any other questions?
Right. How long do you support mentoring?
We don't have limits yet. As long as you will get a job, but obviously it depends on our personally, for example, my availability, or Dennis, or I think Chen, Robert, Marina, they will be also doing mentoring sessions soon. So for right now, just sign up.
And what about Jira and Confluence? We will have access all time, or?
Jira, Confluence, you will have an access to your recent project. However, I would, if you want to repeat the class, I would sign up once again, and you can ask about it either Lana or Anna Sena or Lana, right? Okay. And they will add you to next cohort, to the next class.
Okay, thanks.
But make sure that you sign up to the main Slack channel that I posted earlier, because we do all communications over there.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Evgeny, just one question. So you mentioned that you can give us some type of the certificate. Can you or not?
Certificate? Mm-hmm. Upon the request, yes, we can give you a certificate, but and actually, I would ask you as well to give your input here. Certificate really, from my observation, doesn't really help to get a job. It's I had multiple discussions with other people who actually developers and QAs in my previous companies, and what I figured out that a certificate really doesn't stand you out from the crowd unless it if you are really new, right? I mean,
yeah, I understand that, but I mean, who knows where's this life gonna take me? You know?
My answer will be yes. Yeah, we'll issue the certificate. That's not a problem.
Cool. Thank you.
But it's not that thing that will help you out to get a job. And Chen, what do you think?
Only you can get yourself a job. It's how you present yourself. I have degrees, certificates. Nobody's ever asked me about any of them. None of them.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Just show me what you can do. That's your certificate. If you cannot show anything, I mean, if you cannot prove that you have skill, a certificate doesn't help.
And just to go back, you guys, you know, if you're new, you know, make sure you get your resume, you know, in this form looked at and stuff like that. But when you go into an interview, go with the understanding that they're going to ask you about the skills, the applications, software, hardware that you've listed on there. They'll ask you that. They will never mention, you know, high score or college, what you did in college. You know, they're really wanting to see what you're doing. And one of the best things to do is to go to these meetups, be participant in these kind of conversations, because right now Jira is the hot stuff, right? Jira's and Confluence and Atlassian, all of those are the hot stuff. They want to know how you maneuver it. Do a printout, show it to them. They want you to see how you do certain test cases. You know, right now, I'll just speak on my behalf. What I know now, and if telling somebody new, I would go into Jira. You know, you have the version with this course. Just do if then give. Just do a screenshot, print it out. Use that as your walking briefcase to give to somebody that you're going to be hiring for. That is your certificate. That'll show you you're in it. And you participate this in another year. Guess what? Jira may not be the hottest thing. You know, it might be some other software. You want to be kind of like you'll get an idea when you participate a lot in these meetups and these conversations. What's the greatest and the latest things out in QA? Currently, Jira is it. Everybody, results, reports, bug defect tracking, all of that is in that Jira software. That is your certificate, I would say, that you can take with you anywhere. They're not gonna, their certificate that's provided by the bootcamp, they're like, did you just do this on Word document today and then you print it out? No. They want to know what you're doing. You show them a product of Jira. They're like, oh, this person knows what they're doing.
Yep. All right, guys.
Evgeny, I have one more question quickly. Yesterday in Slack channel, I saw a message about opportunity to work with mobile project. Is it free opportunity? And
Yes.
When will it start?
Okay, reach out to Lana. Whoever wants to participate in, actually it can start already today. We have 2 mobile projects that are going on. The first mobile projects we already have an access. We are going to figure it out what is going to be needed in order to test. And another mobile project will be ready on next week. So just hit Lana and ask her to give spreadsheet. So you have to put your names and put your email to get an access for test flight. And obviously it's for free. It's for free. We have a collaboration with those companies. They give us a project. We're testing them for free, and you'll get an experience.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah. All right, guys.
We're going to wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I'll see you all on Monday, and prepare your questions. All right? Prepare your
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Very welcome.
Bye.
Thank you.